It's the Security Weekly News, and it is episode 377 on Friday, the 12th of April, 2024. We've got Combadges, SISENSE, Microsoft, Malware NextGen, Lastpass, Palo Alto, Broadband, Aaran, Leyland, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News.
On Business Security Weekly, each week we address the challenges facing CISOs through our guest interviews, including former and active CISOs. Our news segment is focused on leadership and communications to better help security leaders translate and communicate security risks into business risks. Jason Albuquerque, Ben Carr, Tyler Robinson, and others add their expertise to the conversation. I'm Matt Alderman, and I hope you search for Business Security Weekly in your favorite podcast catcher and subscribe to download our latest content.
All right, it's the Security Weekly News from the island of Elba. I'm Doug White. Welcome to the show. So CISA, and that's the United States Cybersecurity Organization, and I know most of you know that, but we do have a lot of international viewers, so I always try to make sure we know where we're talking about. But CISA issued an emergency directive which orders U.S. federal agencies to mitigate risks that have resulted from the Microsoft breach. So we've talked about the Microsoft email breach on numerous occasions, but the Microsoft breach has been attributed to APT29 or Cozy Bear or Midnight Blizzard or whatever you want to call them, but they call all kind of stuff. But that, of course, that's the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service in St. Petersburg, right? So CISA said that Russian Foreign Intelligence Service operatives are now using information stolen from Microsoft to gain access to certain customer systems. Microsoft and CISA have already notified all federal agencies whose email correspondence with Microsoft was stolen by the Russian attackers. The new directive marks the first time that the U.S. government has confirmed that federal agency emails were exfiltrated in the Microsoft breach, which occurred back in January. CISA has now ordered affected agencies to identify the full content of the agency correspondence with compromised Microsoft accounts and perform a cybersecurity impact analysis by the 30th of April. Per the emergency order, anyone who detects signs of authentication compromises are required to, 1, take immediate remediation action for tokens, passwords, API keys, and other authentication credentials known or suspected to be compromised, and 2, for any known or suspected authentication compromise identified through Action 1 by the 30th of April, reset the credentials in associated applications and deactivate associated applications that are no longer of use to the agency, and 2, review sign-in token issuance and other account activity logs for users and services whose credentials were suspected or observed as compromised for potential malicious activity. Wow. I mean, basically what they're saying is you need to reset all your passwords, renew all your tokens, and roll over everything. The entire thing began back in January when Microsoft revealed that APT29 had breached their corporate email servers with a password spraying attack, which led to the compromise of a legacy, all sounds very corporatese to me, but legacy non-production test tenant account that was not using MFA, but did just happen to have access to OAuth apps with elevated privilege. Yow. So, clean that stuff up for sure, everybody. But that basically let Cozy Bear access and steal data from corporate mailboxes. And then they've turned around and started using all that information to both do phishing, to try to access other accounts, and so forth. So a very nasty thing. I guess the lesson here is that regardless of whether you're a federal agency or not, you might want to consider this. Theoretically, you've been notified, but does that mean, that they got it all? It always worries me. CISA also alerted SISENSE customers to reset credentials and secrets, which were potentially exposed in a breach of SISENSE's AI-based data analytics service. So SISENSE, if you aren't familiar with them, develops analytics software for this is one of those companies that you've never heard of that you probably should have heard of. I mean, they develop analytics for telcos, airlines, all the big tech people. And it's one of those really, really big companies you never heard of, but that's kind of how they like it, I think. And that's, of course, how supply chain attacks work. So if everybody's using your product, why not target those people back upstream and then use that to go downstream? The belief here is that this may be the beginning of another large-scale supply chain attack and or evidence of a big supply chain attack. Brian Krebs originally posted a note which was sent by the CISO, which argued which urged customers to rotate any credentials that they use with SISENSE all the way back on the 10th of April. So that was when that Brian Krebs story. Apparently, there's not much information on this breach at this point, but that in order for CISA to actually issue an alert on this, which they did, so somebody knows something somewhere, right? I mean, they're just not telling you all the details because they probably don't want anybody to see how to do this or whatever was done. So if you're connected to SISENSE, or, well, we cite Augustus de Morgan and Jonathan Swift all the time, you probably should go get your credentials rotating in order. Yeah. Now, as long as we're doing the CISA show today, CISA also released their threat hunting and internal malware analytics system for public use this week. This system is called Malware NextGen, if you haven't heard of it already, and it is now available for any organization to submit malware samples or other suspicious artifacts for analysis, and that will allow CISA to be more effective. So information sharing has always been one of the big initiatives behind all this stuff since it began, actually. I mean, I remember the very first information sharing initiatives and everybody in corporate going, no, 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 but that's sort of changing. Malware NextGen has been available to .gov and .mil users since last November, and there's already more than 400 registered users, and they've submitted about 1,600 files since then. The system identified 200 suspicious or malicious files in the URLs, and those were shared with all the partners. The malware analysis is performed with a combination of static and dynamic analysis tools in a secure environment, and the results are available in PDF or STIX 2.1 formats to you. You do have to create an account, and I couldn't exactly see if they still had restrictions on who could actually create accounts here. But it does appear that most anyone can register. So if you're interested, there's links in the articles, or you can just go to the CISA site and find that. I would recommend that you do it. Submitting anything you think is suspicious, it helps everybody. You know what I hate about vaults, especially password vaults? Well, the whole idea that there's this place where all this valuable stuff is stored just makes it a big juicy target, right? I mean, it's just like putting up a sign that says lots of money in this box. But LastPass, which is a very, very well-known password vaulting service, revealed that attackers had targeted one of their employees in a voice phishing attack, which used a deepfake audio to pretend to be Karim Tuba, who's the CEO of LastPass. Now, the good news is that for once, the employee being targeted didn't fall for it. Now, why did they not fall for it? When the CEO calls you and demands that you work this weekend scrubbing their yacht, you tend to respond, right? I mean, I know when my boss or my boss's boss or my boss's 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 boss calls, and gives me an email or a message, I get a little interested in, like, responding to that. But the contact came from WhatsApp. And, well, the person that was being contacted thought this was an odd channel for the CEO to use to communicate, and so therefore chose not to listen. LastPass said that the attack failed and there was no impact on LastPass or its users. The company still chose to share the details of the incident to allow others to benefit from the warning. They believe the AI deepfake voice was trained using publicly available audio recordings of the CEO. And like a lot of us, not that I have any authority, so nobody cares about my voice, but, a lot of people have public speeches, public, blogs and all kinds of stuff. So be warned. Some specific advice was shared by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services last week, which basically said that you need to put a better policy in place to validate incoming requests. I mean, when the CEO calls you and demands that you transfer money, and we've seen these kind of attacks a lot, asking people to put a different account number and so forth, well, that's probably not going to work if the demand is ridiculous. But these things are getting more nuanced. They're starting to realize that when you call up in badly, broken English and tell people to transfer money into your bank accounts, people tend to say, "I don't think so, Bob." But when it comes from your boss or your boss's boss, and they're asking you for reasonable things, so you may need to put some kind of, callback mechanism in order to validate that, in order for the launch to go through. Go watch Dr. Strangelove if you want to see what happens when you don't have enough controls in place, and a very dedicated pilot in the form of Slim Whitman. Yeah. But I mean, regardless, start thinking about how do we validate. I mean, if the president of the university called me, I would think something's suspicious. I've never been called by the president of the university. On the other hand, if my boss called me and, and left a voicemail saying, "Please go do this," how do I know that was them now? Yeah. Well, Microsoft released the largest Patch Tuesday update anybody can recall. 147 patches were rolled out on the April Patch Tuesday event. Now, only 3 of those patches were rated as critical, although it turns out they were pretty critical. 2 of the flaws that were patched were being actively exploited. So they, initially, I think they sort of played this down, but they basically then said, no, there's some that are being actively exploited. The last time more than 100 CVEs were patched at once was in October of 2023, which was not that long ago. I mean, it just, it never ceases to amaze me how many flaws are found in these things. But, it's just every month they patch so many things. One of the critical flaws that they patched this time was a smart screen prompt security feature bypass flaw, which was reported as being exploited in the wild by ZDI. There's a whole list of patches here. But you do probably want to be sure you're getting these patches in place before somebody comes looking for your stuff, since there are some critical 0 days there. All the flaws that were related as critical were related to Microsoft Defender for IoT, which is scary enough. But 40 of the patches were related as the SQL Server. And all of those had relatively high CVSS scores. I think most of them required an authenticated user or whatever. But still, if your SQL Server is getting compromised, that's pretty bad. The typical score on that one was 8.8. Microsoft listed, they put their own terminology on everything, but they listed them as, quote, exploitation less likely. I'm like, less likely than what? But regardless, that's their terminology. The issues revolved around how you connect to SQL Server rather than the actual SQL Server product itself. So if you're using any of those products, you may want to check that out and ensure that you've patched up. 24 vulnerabilities were patched in Windows Secure Boot. And if you've watched Paul's Security Weekly, you know that they talk about that kind of stuff a lot. And of course, Secure Boot is what keeps you from getting persistent malware that survives the reboot process. And so, yeah. So patch often, and maybe patch some more after that. Palo Alto Networks is warning that a critical flaw in Pan OS, which is on their Global Protect gateways, is being exploited in the wild. The issue has, wait for this one, a CVSS score of 10. Yeah, 10. That indicates in industry parlance that it's, well, really, really bad. The CVE this one is a command injection vulnerability in the Global Protect feature of Palo Alto Networks PAN-OS software, and may allow, and wait for this one, an unauthenticated attacker to execute arbitrary code with root privilege on the firewall, per the company's advisory. That tells you how bad that one is, right? I mean, they're basically saying not only is the call coming from inside the house, but, the person has a giant meat axe and they're coming looking for you right now. This is bad. The flaw affects multiple versions of the Pan-OS, but Palo Alto said that the issue is only applicable to firewalls that have the configurations for both Global Protect Gateway and device telemetry enabled. So if you are using Palo Alto firewalls, you may want to check this article out. They had a lot more detail about exactly what to look for and how to check these things. Velexity was reporting when they found and reported the flaw. Palo Alto said that they were aware of a limited number of attacks that leverage the exploitation of this vulnerability. The flaw hasn't been patched, but Palo Alto recommended customers with a threat prevention subscription should enable Threat ID 95187 to secure against a problem. I guess if you don't have a threat prevention subscription, you're just out of luck. I don't know what that means. I don't have any Palo Alto products, so I'm not familiar with that. The Federal Communication Commission in the United States, which is called the FCC by most of us, has put a new rule in place for broadband providers that started yesterday. As of Wednesday of this week, broadband providers must publish a quote nutrition label to provide consumers information about hidden costs. And we all, I think all of us are familiar with ISPs trying to sell you things, and they never tell you the whole story. It's like that airfare that you look at. I was just looking at all these airfares, and it says $459 round trip to Tokyo, and you go, wow, that's pretty good. But then you pay the seat fee, the boarding fee, the baggage fee, the overhead bin fee, the toilet fee, the meal fee, the drink fee, and oh, you actually wanted a seat fee, the no snakes fee, the no BO zone fee, and the special zone where people are not allowed to take off their freaking shoes on a plane fee. Look, folks, keep your shoes on, all right? I mean, you may think that your sweaty feet that smell like rotting diapers and malt vinegar actually smell like roses and doesn't bother anybody else. But look, I don't want to smell or see your feet, okay? I don't care how hot you are. Keep your feet to yourself. Your feet smell bad. Since you just spent 2 hours slogging through security in swamp-like conditions and maybe store anchovies in your shoes, keep your damn shoes on. Were you born in a barn? Anyway, the new labels require that broadbands lay out any fees you may encounter under their service plans. If the broadband provider is not displaying a label or has inaccurate information about their fees, you can file a complaint with the FCC, and they can actually fine them. I don't know if they will, but they can. The labeling requirement is now in effect for any providers with more than 100,000 subscribers, but smaller providers will have until October to comply. I don't know why it takes so long to put this up, but apparently. Monetary penalties can be imposed if they fail to comply. Comcast says it is providing the labels in accordance with the new FCC requirement, but that the monthly price on the labels may be different from what it advertises. Imagine that. Now, while that sounds really bad, they qualified this by saying that the label price was higher because it did not reflect discounts and promotions that users may have. I mean, that always sounds real snaky to me. I would pay to set in the no bare feet, no nail clipping, no garlic blood sausage with anchovy sauce, no massive perfume or BO, and so forth zone on most planes. But good luck with that. Well, I'm his witness, and he's my mutineer. It's Aaran Leyland, fresh back from the slopes of France, and still having all of his limbs, it would appear, although I can't quite see his left arm. So, it could have been a really great ski outing. Hi, Aaron.
Hey, Dr. Doug, how's it going? Happy to be back. I think the Windows update slowed down my computer to the point of nearly stopping today. But hopefully we can keep rolling. I'm not blaming you, Microsoft. It's just the world around you. Okay,
All right.
Let's get straight into this. Today is an article from HackRead, 12 paid and free OSINT tools that you should know. Okay, what are OSINT tools? OSINT tools are software applications or platforms that help you collect, analyze, and interpret publicly available information from various online sources. OSINT stands for Open Source Intelligence, which refers to the process of using open and accessible data to generate insights and support decision-making processes. OSINT tools can aid in investigations, research, and intelligence gathering, as well as in verifying facts, identifying trends, and uncovering hidden connections. Sounds super cool, doesn't it? Okay, so what are some of the benefits of OSINT tools? In the article, they explore 12 paid and free OSINT tools that are publicly available and can be very useful when utilized properly and for appropriate reasons, like everything that we do in the hacker, white hat, whatever world we do live in anyway. I will add my honorable mentions at the end and links to the story and my extras in the show notes. Okay, Epic VIN. Epic VIN is a website dedicated to providing detailed vehicle history reports based on vehicles VIN. This is obviously in America, right? So Doug talking about a global audience. Go check out American Vehicles, guys. So vehicle identification number or license plate, established in 2012 and headquartered in Miami, Florida. The platform offers paid results with 3 packages starting from $14.99 for 1 report and £7.04. How crazy is that for 4 reports and $5.40 for 16 reports? A lot of detail there, HackRead. Good work. Anyway, Shodan. Everybody loves Shodan. And if you check sometimes a year, you can get Shodan Life membership for quite cheap, actually. Shodan is essentially a search engine for internet connected devices. Anybody that's done a hacker course has seen Shodan. It allows users to discover various types of devices, from routers to security cameras to servers, and they that are connected to the internet, providing valuable data about security of these devices and potential vulnerabilities. It says here Shodan is available in free and paid packages. There's definitely a package there that comes up now and again that you can just have lifetime access for it. And it's probably quite grey, a lot of grey area in the law, a lot of things you can see on Shodan. But if you use properly and legally, it's pretty awesome. Okay, Telegogo is a free Google-based search engine for Telegram. The tool can be used to search for public Telegram channels. That's so cool. Groups or content, leveraging Google search capabilities helps users find Telegram related information or discussions more efficiently than searching through Telegram's own search features. That's just so cool. There's just so many cool things about that. Okay, number 4, GHunt. GHunt is a free OSINT tool designed to extract information from any Google account using an email address. The data that GHunt can gather includes Google ID, owner's name, public photos, phone models, phone's firmware, installed softwares, Google Map reviews. It's crazy. Possible physical location, possible YouTube channel, possible other usernames, events from Google Calendar. If the account is a Hangout spot, last time profile was edited, activated Google services. Like, just go over there and have a look at that and play with it. I haven't actually played with that, but it sounds like super cool and really illegal. But anyway, FOCA, that's a cool name, isn't it? Fingerprints Organizations with Collective Archives is a free OSINT tool used primarily for security auditing. It's designed to help security professionals analyze a domain security by finding metadata and hidden information in the documents they make available on their websites. FOCA, such a cool name, is popular among penetration testers and cybersecurity professionals for its ability to uncover information that can help in the early stages of security audit or penetration test. It provides insights that can guide further testing and exploration, including document analysis, metadata extraction, mapping, and more. Super cool. Scope Now is a paid analytical search engine aimed at discovering and compiling digital identities from public available data. It's so cool. All of these just sound like they should be illegal or spies or something. The platform uses various algorithms to aggregate information from social media, websites, and other online sources to create profiles that can be used for background checks, investigative purposes, and risk assessment. This can be particularly helpful and useful for professionals in law enforcement, fraud prevention, and corporate security to obtain insights into individuals' online presence and behaviors. Multigo, as another one, if you've done a hacking course, you've probably done some of this, is a powerful tool for performing real-time data mining and information gathering, as well as the visualization of the information in graph format. Who doesn't love a graph? Ideal for investigative purposes, it helps in identifying relationships and real-world links between pieces of information from various sources located on the internet. Multigo, according to this, is available in free and paid packages. MetaGoofle, which is a metadata extraction tool that's used to analyze metadata of public documents. Go for it. Sounds cool. Recon NG is a full feature free web reconnaissance framework written in Python. We love Python. It provides a powerful environment in which open source web based reconnaissance can be conducted quickly and thoroughly. Recon NG has a look and feel similar to the Metasploit framework, reducing the learning curve significantly. You'll have done that in a hacker course as well. The Harvester. The Harvester is a free OSINT tool for gathering email accounts, subdomain names, virtual hosts, open ports, banners, and employee names from different public sources through search engines, key servers. This tool is particularly useful in early stages of penetration test to understand the human element of cybersecurity, which is massive, right? This one's so cool. I don't even know if we have this in the UK. This is obviously the American one.
I think we just lost Aaron. So okay, we'll just wrap this up then. Don't know what happened. Hopefully London's still there. It wasn't, one of those unusual events, or, that Russian stormtroopers are landing in the streets or what have you. But I don't know if he's coming back or not. Oh, hi, Aaron. Are you back?
I don't know what happened there.
Well,
I
you
was
can
just
wrap. You can
looking
wrap
on
up.
my right hand side, and The Riverside thing was blank.
I was just vamping. So you want to finish what you were talking about?
Okay, I'll carry on. Okay, in at number 11, arrest.org. Arrest.org is a free website aggregating booking and arrest records from various public law enforcement agencies across the United States. This site typically displays mugshots, personal information such as age and gender. Just sounds like Tinder for interesting people, right? And details of the charges against the individuals listed. These records are pulled up from publicly available sources such as county sheriff's offices and police departments. And the last one for their ones, OSINT framework, not a tool in itself, but rather a free collection of OSINT tools for specific purposes. Okay, so some of my honorable mentions, go over and have a look at Spiderfoot, have a look at Hunchley, have a look at Talkwalker. And of course, my favorite, everybody should be doing this if you're into OSINT, have a look at Google Dorks. So, okay, that's and Bellingcat. That's another one that just come to my head. That's like a really cool website of investigative journalists that look into all cool stuff. So, in conclusion, OSINT tools are valuable and powerful instruments that can help you access and analyze a wealth of information. All good there. Hopefully, my computer and Microsoft will stop giving me bugs. We'll go back to Dr. Doug in the studio, who's the OSINT captain of this ship. Ahoy and sail away, please, Dr. Doug.
Thank you, Aaron. And finally, you want a comm badge, right? I mean, everybody wants a comm badge. You want to be able to go like, Riker, what's that burning sensation I feel? That kind of thing. Yeah, you know that. 3 to beam up, all that. I mean, at least that's how all of it works in my Star Trek erotic fanfic. But the Humane AI pin. So this was a big deal that came out last year. There was, they didn't get released, but they debuted it. They talk about it, and it's supposed to be the beginning of some kind of AI wearable AI revolution, and in how we all interact with the world around us and everybody else. Now, this pin, and I'm going to put pin in air quotes because from the looks of it, it's a little bigger than a pin. It's sort of off in the realm of like your great grandmother's brooch. How do you say that? Brooch, BROACH, brooch, right? I have problems with these kind of words, but I can't say the name Joyce either. I have problems with it, but my great grandmother always had these big pendant things that were like the size of flip phones. Yeah, this thing costs $699, and you have to have a $24 a month subscription. And I don't even know if it must be like Wi-Fi enabled or something, but it looked like one of those pocket calculators they were selling back in the 1970s. But apparently, you pin it to your clothing like a comm badge. Riker, get back down here. But anyway, I mean, what it is a small wearable chatbot. So that's the point of it, I guess. The developer called it your second brain. And the pen has a mic and a camera, and it's powered by an OS named Cosmos. It apparently has vision capabilities and can make calls, send text, take photos, or play music. And it can also display images on the palm of your hand. So this was the big deal about this, was it projected stuff onto the palm of your hand. So you were able to read text and things like that. So that was kind of an interesting idea. The only user interface that it has is the tap and talk comm badge method. So just like comm badges, right? You tap it and you talk. So it is a comm badge. But much like Zephram Cochrane's first flight, it's apparently not got all the bugs worked out so far. Reviewers were saying things, I guess these were early release reviewers. They were saying things like this one, quote, I asked the device to play a Beyonce song, and the device went on a diatribe explaining Humane's back-end instructions for the AI when someone asked for music. Another one said, quote, a question about the weather took 10 seconds before an answer was provided, which doesn't sound like long, but then go 1, 2. Yeah, it's pretty long. I mean, I love tech. I love all kinds of cutting edge tech and things like that. But I usually wait for the next gen, right? Because the first gen of almost anything is not the greatest. I mean, you really want to get on that first flight, when they're still trying to figure out if the doors will stay on. Maybe you do. Some people are like that. I do think this is probably the beginning of this kind of thing, and I think it will become more common. And we're always just, immediately asking questions of our devices and so forth. You see something, a weird bird by the side of the road eating a carcass, and you go, wonder what that thing is. It would really be handy to have like a camera that, is attached and goes, oh, yes, that's a vulture. But anyway, just like dashboard cams did this, right? I mean, we saw this sort of come together. But like dashboard cams and other devices, it'll probably have a host of issues before it becomes something everybody's using all the time. I mean, remember early cell phones? I do. A giant 2 kilo brick with 10 minutes of battery life that usually didn't work cost $3 a minute. But look at us today. So will I get my Combadge before I'm dead? Probably, but maybe not this week for $699 and $24 additional a month. Yeah, maybe not. Anyway, that's the news. Thank you, Aaron, and we will see all of you next time on the Security Weekly